We all know that one student who only studies about 1 to 2 hours a day but always ends up topping the class and getting that 95% and 100% on the exams, right? So why is it that when we study for the same amount of time, we only end up getting about 60 to 70% on our exams? That is exactly what I'm going to help you guys solve in this video. I'm going to teach you guys some very simple science-backed tips and techniques that will help you get those maximum level of grades you can possibly get in every single exam and make you a straight A student. So without further ado, let's begin. Tip number 1 is the worked example effect. So before we can even start looking at our content, looking at the lecture material, looking at the textbook, there are 4 main very important things that I want you guys to do. Firstly, go to your past paper website. Let's say your specification is the Cambridge specification. Go to your syllabus and look at the past paper websites for your syllabus. Once you reach those past paper websites, look at the mark scheme. 4 key things that you need to be writing down in a sheet of paper. Now pull out a sheet of paper, make sure you write these 4 things down with me. Firstly, write down what has the examiner answer done well. What has the examiner answer demonstrated really well? That's the first point. Second thing, what has the examiner done badly? So what have they said are some common mistakes or some common errors that students make generally in that particular question? Make sure you write that down as your second point. Third point, what are the key words that the examiners have asked you to write? So these are generally written out in bold in the examiner response. These words are known as key words and they are words that you 100% need to mention in order to get the mark. That's your third point. And lastly, fourth point is how can we make sure we incorporate all of these elements into our answer to make it better, to make it a very cohesive and well written out answer. So in this step, we write our suggestions for improvement. So we write what is it that we can incorporate, add or remove into our answer to make it the best possible answer for that particular question. So why exactly is the worked example effect so useful? The reason for this is the cognitive load theory. So this is where the science comes into this, right? The cognitive load theory suggests that unguided problem solving will always result in improper learning. So whenever you have, a lack of a system to solve questions, to solve those past papers, you will essentially do more work and not gain much out of it. So this way, by using the worked example effect, we have that system in place. We look at a past paper, we write down 4 things that are key takeaways from those examiner reports, and we build a system consistently through every single topic and every single question that we do for different topics. So much so that by the end of the year, you will now have a system called a mistake booklet, a sheet or a book of all of the questions that you've got wrong and all of the keywords that you need to know for particular topics segregated by topic, so that now when you have that exam, you can have those keywords in the back of your mind while you're answering the question, and then you can really make sure that, okay, I'm writing exactly what the examiner wants, and I can 100% guarantee you will get full marks. And speaking of studying quickly, this video has been very kindly brought to you by SciSpace. SciSpace is an AI research assistant tool that helps students complete their research essays and literature reviews super quickly. It particularly is useful for citations and literature reviews, and some of the core features that it uses is the literature review feature, which helps with formatting of your articles. I personally, as a uni student, do labs every single day and have to write a research report. So SciSpace has been super useful in making sure I'm formatting my research papers really well, using language properly, and making sure my literary reviews are concise. SciSpace is useful not only to identify literature, but also to compare them side by side through the co-pilot feature. The program AI chat has over 75 different language options, allowing you to ask questions and gain feedback on your research papers, your findings, sources, literature, and interventions. SciSpace also has a paraphrase feature, which I personally love, that allows you to copy and paste a piece of writing, and the tool will automatically summarize that paraphrased version into some concise words, as well as words that are more human-like, to make sure it actually flows well and your writing looks really good. If you're interested in SciSpace, I would highly recommend checking them out using my link in the description box, which I'll also show up here in the link, which is the first part of the description box. And with that, let's get back into the video. If you guys want me to make another video about the mistake booklet, I've talked a lot about this. It is my most liked and recommended method of studying and tracking down your errors. Make sure you let me know down in the comment section if you want me to make a video you about that. Tip number 2 is all about studying time. So the prime time to study is when you're focused, completely focused and in your, hustle mode, right? So something that is really important to recognize is what time is it that you work best at. So the time that you work best at should be your flow state. It's where you have 100% concentration and focus, and you have removed all of your distractions and things that take away that focus in that particular moment of studying. In fact, students who know the times that work for them and the times that do not work for them perform significantly better than students who do not know what times work for them when it comes to studying. So make sure there are two main things that you need to keep in mind. One is knowing the time that you work best at and knowing the time that you work worst at. So this is even more important because knowing the times that you're really bad at when it comes to working and productivity is going to help you eliminate those times. You're going to make sure that, okay, I'm not going to study at this time, and it'll eliminate a lot of those distractors and allow you to really recognize what time is it that I work best at, so you can now have that distraction time for other tasks or other hobbies that you want to do, let's say. For instance, for me, I know that afternoons are the worst time for me to work at. It's the time where I have zero focus and I tend to just daydream looking out of the window, looking at the cars outside. So I make sure I do not do heavy studying tasks. Then if I have an exam coming up, I will make sure I do not study for that subject during the afternoons because that's not something that works for me. But for instance, if you are someone who works really well at night, make sure you're studying that particular topic or that particular subject for the upcoming exam at night time. Do your revision then rather than doing it in the afternoon if you are a night owl, let's say. Because remember, the early bird does not catch the worm unless, one, it spots the worm at the right time, so in the early morning, and two, that the worm is in the right place as the bird, right? So you need to have the right mindset when it comes to studying and the right time in order to make sure you can grasp most of that information, absorb a lot of information, and really make the most out of your study time. Alright, step number 3 is about objectives. So you know that worked example that we looked at in step 2? Make sure you keep that aside with you now and follow me through this. So step 3 is about objectives, which means go to your past paper website again and look at your specification. Open up that specification or syllabus document. What you should see now at the front page, first page of your syllabus, is a set of 4 objectives for every single topic. It should be about 4 or 5 key dot points listed under every single topic. I want you guys to write down those 4 key objectives in your existing worked example that we looked at in step 2 or tip 2. And make sure that now you have a single page. It should be one page that consists of all of these key points. So you need to have 1, the key objectives that we looked at from the syllabus, 2, the key words for that particular topic, for instance enzymes, 3, what the examiner responses have done really well, and 4, what you suggest would be improvements for the answer to make it a really good answer, to make sure it really hits those examiner report points, and to make sure your answer gets as many marks as possible. And lastly, tip number 5 is about sleep schedule. So this is an unconventional tip because the sleep schedule is really important. It's crucial to retaining a high amount of information. And why is that? This is where we look into the science and the biology behind sleep schedule and studying. So what actually happens in your brain is, for instance, if you've had a late night study session and you study at 12 p.m. let's say, and you sleep at 3 a.m. in the morning, what happens in your brain is the melatonin. So there's a chemical called melatonin which is responsible for regulating your sleep cycle. This melatonin gets released even delayed. So when you sleep at 3 a.m. your melatonin release is delayed, because of which you wake up the next day even later than you normally would, and overall then your sleep schedule is in havoc. It's in complete chaos because now it's being pushed further and further down the lane compared to if you just would have slept at the right time. In fact, this is even worsened by caffeine intake. So I know this is very unconventional, right? Like students, we tend to drink a lot of coffee. We practically run and live on coffee. But what happens now is when you drink caffeine, especially with late night study sessions, that caffeine intake delays the release of melatonin even further. So caffeine essentially is kind of like an inhibitor for melatonin. When you have caffeine, then melatonin is not released as quickly because it releases something called ACTH, which is responsible for melatonin regulation. So when that ACTH is inhibited, melatonin is inhibited as well. So when you have caffeine, you're not releasing ACTH enough, you're not releasing that melatonin, which is a sleep hormone. So because we're not releasing that melatonin, our sleep schedule is completely wrecked because we're not getting that sleep quickly enough at night, and so we do not wake up quickly enough in the morning. So you might have the risk of actually missing your exam ultimately the next day if you don't sleep at the right time the night before. That is it for this video, guys. I hope you liked it. If you did, do make sure to like, share and subscribe to Biolog. I have been making sure that these videos are really jam-packed, especially with the new series #TheBiologyBehind. I've made sure that these couple of videos are really jam-packed with actionable, useful tips that you can implement right now, which are backed by science, so you know they're legit. And with that, if you made it this far, make sure to comment down below this emoji and let me know what video ideas you guys would like to see in the future as well. And with that, I'll see you guys in my next video. Have a great day.